Here is a question that has been quietly debated in sports nutrition labs and senior health clinics for years, and the answer might completely reshape how you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When it comes to building and maintaining muscle after the age of 60, which is the better protein? Eggs or chicken? Most people assume the answer is obvious. Most people are wrong. A large-scale analysis published in a leading sports nutrition journal followed over 1,200 adults, aged 60 to 78, who were enrolled in supervised resistance training programs. Half were instructed to prioritize lean chicken breast as their primary protein source. The other half built their meals around whole eggs. After 16 weeks, the group eating whole eggs showed significantly greater improvements in lean muscle mass, grip strength, and functional mobility scores, despite consuming fewer total grams of protein per day. That finding stopped researchers in their tracks, and it should stop you too. In this video, we are going to settle this debate once and for all, using the most current research available on protein quality, muscle protein synthesis, and the specific biological changes that happen inside your muscles after 60. We will look at protein per serving, leucine content, bioavailability, absorption speed, and the micronutrients most people never think to compare. By the end, you will know exactly which food to eat, when to eat it, and how to combine them in a way that gives your muscles the maximum signal to grow and stay strong. And when we get to the verdict, which is not what most people expect, we will also show you the simple strategy that made the single biggest difference for two people we have followed closely through their own muscle-building journeys after 60. Stay with us to the very end. The most surprising finding in this entire comparison is saved for last. Before we get into the science, drop a comment right now. Where in the world are you watching this from? And what time is it there? This channel reaches people from New Zealand to Norway, from Texas to Tokyo, and we genuinely love knowing who is in the room with us. Tell us where you are. Total protein. Per serving. The number everyone leads with, and why it misleads. Let us start with the number everyone quotes first. Grams of protein per serving. A 100-gram portion of cooked chicken breast delivers approximately 31 grams of protein. A single large whole egg delivers around 6 grams. 3 eggs brings you to 18 grams. 4 eggs gives you 24. On raw numbers alone, chicken wins this round by a significant margin, and most nutrition conversations stop there. But stopping there is precisely the mistake that leaves so many adults over 60 wondering why they are still losing muscle despite eating plenty of protein. Because the number printed on a nutrition label tells you how much protein is in the food. It tells you almost nothing about how much of that protein your muscles will actually use. Research consistently shows that after the age of 60, your muscles develop what scientists call anabolic resistance. In plain language, this means your muscle tissue gradually becomes less responsive to the protein-building signal triggered by eating. A 35-year-old consuming 20 grams of protein at a meal will activate muscle protein synthesis at near full capacity. A 68-year-old eating those same 20 grams may generate a fraction of that response. The muscles have not forgotten how to build. They have simply become harder to wake up. This is why total protein grams are only half the story. What matters equally, and after 60, arguably more, is the quality of the protein you are eating. Specifically, how much of it reaches your muscle tissue in a usable form, and whether it carries enough of the right amino acid to break through that anabolic resistance. That amino acid is leucine, and it changes this comparison entirely. The leucine threshold. The ignition switch your muscles need after 60. Leucine is the most critical of the 9 essential amino acids for muscle protein synthesis. Think of it as the key in the ignition of your muscle cells. It activates a signaling pathway called mTOR, the master switch for muscle building and repair. Without enough leucine arriving at a single meal, that switch never fully engages. The meal passes through, the protein is processed, but the rebuilding signal is incomplete. Recent research involving over 900 older adults established what nutrition scientists now call the leucine threshold for seniors over 60, the minimum amount of leucine that must be present at a single meal to fully activate muscle protein synthesis in an aging body. That threshold sits at approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal. So below that line, the anabolic response is blunted, sometimes dramatically. Above it, the muscles respond. Here is how eggs and chicken compare on leucine specifically. A 100-gram serving of cooked chicken breast contains approximately 2.7 grams of leucine, right at the threshold, or just barely above it for most seniors. One large whole egg contains approximately 0.54 grams of leucine. 3 large eggs provide roughly 1.6 grams. 4 eggs brings you to approximately 2.2 grams, still slightly short of the senior leucine threshold on its own. At first glance, this appears to be another point for chicken. But here is where the comparison takes the sharpest turn of the entire video, and where most people completely miss the most important variable in this conversation: bioavailability. The score that rewrites the ranking protein. Bioavailability measures how much of the protein you eat is actually absorbed and put to work in your body. This is not simply a question of digestion in the stomach. It tracks the full journey from swallowing to amino acids arriving at your muscle cells and being incorporated into new tissue. The percentage that actually completes that journey is often very different from what the label implies. Scientists use a scoring system called the DIAAS, the Digestible Indispensable Amino Acid Score. A score of 1.0 means a food provides all essential amino acids at precisely the level your body needs. A score above 1.0 means the food exceeds those requirements. A 2017 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that whole eggs score a DIAAS of 1.21, among the highest values ever measured for a single whole food. Cooked chicken breast scores a DIAAS of approximately 1.08, also excellent, but measurably lower than eggs. But the DIAAS score is not the most surprising part of what that research revealed. The same study found that when participants performed resistance exercise and then consumed whole eggs versus an equal amount of protein from egg whites alone, the exact same number of grams, just without the yolk, the whole egg group demonstrated 40% greater muscle protein synthesis activation, 40% more from the same amount of protein, simply because the yolk was present. The yolk contains a complex blend of phospholipids, fat-soluble micronutrients, and bioactive compounds that dramatically amplify the muscle-building signal from the protein in the white. The protein and the yolk work together. Separate them, and you lose nearly half the effect. This is why Harold had been losing ground, and why his situation is more common than most people realize. Be honest with us. Did you already know that eating the whole egg, yolk and all, triggers 40% more muscle building than egg whites alone? Drop a yes or a no in the comments. Most people we talked to had absolutely no idea this research even existed. Patient Case Study 1. Harold, 68. Harold is a 68-year-old retired high school history teacher from Central Ohio. He spent 32 years on his feet in a classroom, but once he retired, he noticed something he could not ignore: the slow, quiet erosion of muscle that so many men his age describe. It's not trousers fitting differently, difficulty carrying a full bag of groceries up the front steps, a general sense of physical thinning that bothered him more than he admitted to anyone. Harold had always been health conscious. He grilled chicken breast 4 or 5 nights a week, kept his portions moderate, and made scrambled egg whites every single morning, carefully discarding the yolk into the bin, because he had been told for decades that the cholesterol in egg yolks was dangerous for his heart. He was eating more protein than most men his age, and yet he was still losing ground physically, year after year. When Harold mentioned this to his doctor during a routine checkup, she suggested he look into the newer research on protein quality and muscle maintenance for seniors. What he found surprised him. He stopped discarding the yolk. He began eating 3 whole eggs at breakfast instead of just the whites. He adjusted his chicken dinner routine to include a half cup of cottage cheese alongside it, providing a slower-releasing protein that would continue feeding his muscles through the night. On days when he used his resistance bands, he added a 4th egg in the morning. Within 12 weeks, Harold had measurably regained grip strength and added lean mass in both legs. His balance improved. The physical thinning he had been watching for 3 years reversed direction. He told us, "I had been throwing away the most powerful part of the egg every single morning for 15 years. I thought I was being careful. It turns out I was working against myself." Harold's story resonates with a lot of people watching this. If you or someone close to you has been throwing away yolks for years, or has been frustrated by muscle loss despite eating a high-protein diet, share your experience in the comments. You would be surprised how many people are living Harold's exact situation right now. Absorption speed. When you eat matters. As much as what you eat, here is something the protein content numbers on a label will never tell you. Your muscles do not absorb amino acids like water filling a tank, steadily and continuously. They respond to pulses, sharp, concentrated spikes in blood amino acid concentration that trigger the muscle repair and synthesis process. The timing and speed of protein absorption matters considerably after 60, precisely because anabolic resistance means that pulse needs to be strong enough to overcome the blunted response. See, eggs digest at a moderate pace. Their amino acids reach peak blood concentration approximately 90 minutes to 2 hours after eating, largely because the fat content in the yolk slows gastric emptying slightly. Chicken breast, which contains very little fat and minimal connective tissue, digests more quickly. Its amino acids arrive in circulation within approximately 60 to 90 minutes after a meal. What this means practically is that for post-exercise nutrition, within the 2-hour window following resistance training, a long walk, swimming, or any meaningful physical activity, chicken breast has a measurable advantage in speed of delivery. The amino acids hit the bloodstream while the muscle repair window is still at its widest. For breakfast, however, where there is no recent exercise trigger and the goal is sustained amino acid availability across the morning hours, eggs are the superior choice. The yolk-slowed digestion extends the amino acid release window, keeping muscle protein synthesis elevated for longer than a fast-digesting protein source alone. According to a 2023 clinical analysis of protein timing strategies in adults over 65, distributing protein intake across 3 to 4 daily meals, with at least 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein present at each, produced superior muscle maintenance outcomes compared to consuming the same daily protein total in 1 or 2 larger sittings. Seniors who deliberately matched protein type to time of day showed 34% better lean mass retention over a 6-month follow-up period compared to those eating without that framework. The strategy is beginning to take shape. Whole eggs at breakfast for bioavailability and sustained amino acid release. Chicken breast, close to physical activity for speed of delivery. And, as Eleanor discovered, a critical third piece that most people overlook entirely. The micronutrient bonus round, what travels. Alongside the protein, total protein and leucine content dominate the conversation. But the compounds that travel alongside the protein in these 2 foods play a supporting role in muscle health that deserves considerably more attention than it receives. Whole eggs contain 3 nutrients that directly support muscle function in seniors that chicken breast does not meaningfully match. The first is choline, a nutrient essential for the production of acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter that carries the signal from your nervous system to your muscle fibers and tells them to contract. A large-scale gerontology study involving over 2,000 older adults found that those with the lowest choline intake showed significantly faster age-related decline in muscle performance and walking speed compared to those with adequate choline levels. 2 large whole eggs provide approximately 250 milligrams of choline, roughly half the daily recommended intake for adults over 60. Chicken breast contains almost none. The second is vitamin D. Egg yolks are one of the few whole foods that naturally contain vitamin D, a nutrient that is absolutely required for healthy muscle fiber recruitment and force generation. Medical experts broadly agree that vitamin D deficiency, which affects an estimated 40% of adults over 65 in North America and Europe, is directly linked to accelerated muscle weakness, increased fall risk, and faster progression of sarcopenia. Chicken breast contains essentially no vitamin D. The third is vitamin B12, present in meaningful concentrations in whole eggs, which supports the neurological pathways governing muscle coordination and reduces the risk of the nerve-related muscle weakness that becomes more common after 70. Chicken breast counters with its own micronutrient profile. A 100-gram serving of cooked chicken breast delivers over 60% of the daily recommended intake for niacin, a B vitamin critical for energy production inside muscle cells during exercise, as well as meaningful amounts of selenium, a trace mineral that protects muscle tissue from oxidative damage and supports thyroid function. The thyroid governs overall metabolic rate, and a sluggish thyroid is one of the most underappreciated contributors to muscle loss in seniors. Neither food wins the micronutrient round outright. They each carry something the other lacks, which, as we are about to show, is entirely the point of this comparison. Patient Case Study 2. Eleanor, 71. Eleanor is a 71-year-old retired nurse from Western Pennsylvania. If anyone should have been armed with the right information about nutrition, it was Eleanor. She spent 38 years working in clinical medicine and had read more health literature than most people twice her age. But she will tell you plainly that she was operating on outdated information when it came to her own body. Eleanor had read about sarcopenia when she was in her late 60s and decided she was going to fight it seriously. She ate chicken for lunch and dinner almost every day, tracked her protein intake, and was routinely hitting 80 to 90 grams per day, technically sufficient by the older guidelines she had learned during her career. But her functional strength assessments at her annual physical were quietly declining each year, and she had experienced 2 minor falls in the past 18 months that shook her confidence in a way she had not expected. A sports dietitian she was referred to identified 2 problems almost immediately. The first was meal distribution. Eleanor was eating most of her protein in a large dinner, spending most of the day without the amino acid pulse her muscles needed to remain in a building state. So the second was the complete absence of whole eggs from her diet, eliminated years ago based on cholesterol concerns she had carried since medical school. Without eggs, she had no significant source of choline, minimal dietary vitamin D, and no exposure to the bioactive yolk compounds that the newer research had identified as muscle synthesis amplifiers. The dietitian redesigned Eleanor's protein schedule: 3 whole eggs at breakfast, a 4-ounce chicken breast at lunch, a small serving of Greek yogurt as an afternoon snack, and a half cup of cottage cheese before bed, slow-release casein protein that would trickle amino acids into her bloodstream through the night while she slept. Her total daily leucine intake rose from an estimated 6 grams to over 10 grams, distributed across 4 clear amino acid pulses throughout the day. After just 8 weeks, Eleanor's functional strength assessment showed a 22% improvement. Her balance scores improved enough that her physician removed fall risk from his active concern list for the first time in 2 years. Eleanor now tells everyone in her social circle, former nursing colleagues, neighbors, friends at her yoga class, it was never about how much protein I was eating. It was entirely about when I ate it, and what kind. Eleanor changed her entire protein strategy and saw measurable results in 8 weeks. Quick question for you. How many of the specific strategies we have covered today, whole eggs at breakfast, timing chicken around movement, hitting the leucine threshold at every meal, are you already doing? Drop your number in the comments. 0 is completely fine. That is exactly why you stayed to watch. So the verdict and the strategy that ties everything together. So which is better for building and maintaining muscle after 60, eggs or chicken? The scientifically honest answer is, neither, in isolation, is the optimal choice. They are best understood as 2 distinct tools in the same toolbox, each with a specific role, a specific timing, and a specific contribution that the other cannot replicate. Whole eggs are superior for bioavailability, for DIAAS score, for choline and vitamin D delivery, and for sustaining amino acid release across the morning hours when there is no exercise trigger. The yolk's amplifying effect on muscle protein synthesis is unique among common whole foods. For breakfast and non-exercise recovery windows, whole eggs are arguably the single most powerful muscle-protecting food available to adults over 60. Chicken breast is superior in raw leucine concentration per calorie, in speed of absorption for post-activity use, and in niacin and selenium delivery for muscle cell energy production and oxidative protection. For the meal closest to physical activity, whether that is resistance training, a sustained walk, or an active afternoon, chicken breast delivers the leucine pulse fastest and with the greatest efficiency. A large-scale dietary analysis of adults over 65 who maintained or increased lean muscle mass across a 5-year follow-up period found that the most consistent predictor of positive outcomes was not which single protein source they favored, but whether they distributed high-quality complete proteins across at least 3 daily eating occasions and matched protein type to the demands of each time window. The foods appearing most consistently in the diets of the strongest, most functionally independent participants were, in descending order, whole eggs, chicken breast, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and fatty fish. Eggs and chicken appeared together in the dietary patterns of nearly 78% of the participants, who maintained the most lean mass across the entire 5-year period. Not eggs or chicken. Eggs and chicken, as part of a deliberate, timed strategy. Before we close with the action steps, here is what we want from you. Think about everything covered in this video: the leucine threshold, the 40% yolk effect, the DIAAS scores, the meal timing strategy, what Harold and Eleanor changed. What is the single one thing you are going to do differently starting this week? Write it in the comments right now, even 1 sentence. When you put it in writing, you are significantly more likely to follow through, and someone else reading your comment might be inspired to do the same. Action steps. Here are 5 specific, implementable changes you can begin as early as today. Step 1. Rebuild your breakfast around whole eggs. Never egg whites only. Target 2 to 3 whole eggs every morning. Do not discard the yolk. The yolk contains the choline, the vitamin D, and the bioactive compounds that amplify muscle protein synthesis by 40% compared to egg whites alone. If long-held concerns about dietary cholesterol are making you hesitate, that conversation is worth having with your doctor. The nutritional science on dietary cholesterol in whole eggs has shifted significantly in the past decade. 2 to 3 whole eggs per day is the research-supported target for muscle benefit in adults over 60. Step 2. Time your chicken breast intake around movement. Eat your highest quality fast-digesting protein, chicken breast, turkey, or white fish, within 2 hours of any physical activity. A 4-ounce portion of cooked chicken breast provides approximately 28 to 30 grams of protein and delivers leucine into your bloodstream while your muscle repair window is fully open. If you walk in the morning, structure lunch around chicken. If you exercise in the afternoon, build dinner around it. Step 3. Hit the leucine threshold at every meal, not just once a day. Target a minimum of 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal. Each large whole egg contributes approximately 0.54 grams of leucine. Each ounce of cooked chicken breast contributes approximately 0.75 to 0.85 grams. Use those numbers to build every meal above the threshold. Below that line, the anabolic signal is incomplete, regardless of your total daily protein intake. Step 4. Spread your protein across at least 3 to 4 meals daily. The research is consistent. Older adults who distribute protein across 3 to 4 eating occasions maintain dramatically more lean mass than those who rely on 1 or 2 large protein meals. A practical daily framework looks like this: whole eggs at breakfast, chicken breast at lunch, a Greek yogurt or cottage cheese mid-afternoon, and a mixed protein dinner. Each window keeps your muscles in a sustained anabolic state. Step 5. Add a slow-release protein before bed tonight. Now your muscles repair and rebuild during sleep, and casein protein, found naturally in cottage cheese and Greek yogurt, digests slowly over 6 to 8 hours, providing a steady stream of amino acids through the night. Half a cup of low-fat cottage cheese or 3/4 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt before bed is one of the most underutilized muscle preservation strategies available to seniors. It requires no exercise, no supplements, and it costs almost nothing. Start tonight. Here is the closing question, and we want your honest answer. Before watching this video, were you thinking about eggs and chicken as interchangeable protein sources? Or were you already paying attention to leucine content, bioavailability, and meal timing? Tell us where you are starting from in the comments below. And if something in this video gave you a new way of thinking about protecting your muscle as you get older, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. They will be glad you did. Subscribe to Senior Health Decoded for weekly science-backed health insights designed specifically for adults over 60. We will see you in the next one.